Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Dobbs. I'm managing editor for Reminder Publishing, and I'll be your host and moderator tonight for a series of debates and interviews with city council candidates here in the city of Springfield. First, we're going to be talking to Janae McDonald, who is one of the two candidates running for the Ward 4 seat here on the city council. Her opponent, Melo Brown, could not make it to the debate tonight, and so we decided that rather than to cancel her appearance, that voters should have the opportunity of hearing from her regardless. So first of all, Janae, thanks very much for coming out.
Thank you for hosting this lovely debate. Thank you for having me. I'm certainly saddened that my opponent declined to be here, but I'm still happy to be here and answer your questions and let the Ward 4 residents know who I am, what I stand for, so they can make an informed decision on November 5th.
Okay, so first of all, let's just do some of the basics. Can you tell people a little bit about your background and what has motivated you to run for city council at this time?
Certainly. So, as you all know, I'm Janae McDonald. I've lived in Springfield all of my life. I'm the mother of 3 children. I graduated from Bay Path University. Prior to my position at SEIU Local 509 as a family child care coordinator, overseeing about 3,500 family child care providers, bargaining and negotiating for their benefits, their wages, and other benefits for them. I worked in nonprofit education and workforce development, and I've always worked in nonprofit. I have a long history of working with the at-risk population, working with young people, connecting them to social services, to education services, and employment services. I got my feet wet in politics back in about 2014 when I helped now State Representative Carlos Gonzalez get elected. It was then that I noticed the absence, first, of women in the political arena, also the absence of Black women in the political arena. And then I became involved with a statewide organization called Neighbor to Neighbor. And I learned how to make my voice be heard, get the attention of my neighborhood, and start to organize folks to speak up about things that they care about most. And it was then that I realized that politics is what plays a huge role in whether your streets are paved or the quality of your parks, the quality of your school, and some of the funding that goes in and out of your city. And many of my friends from Neighbor to Neighbor and other folks that watch me develop into an emerging leader encouraged me to run for city council. And I ran, some of you may remember me, from 2017, I ran at large. And then now I've decided to represent my neighborhood of Ward 4.
Okay, so in terms of Ward 4, first of all, a lot of times people may not really understand what constitutes the ward. Describe the ward in terms of the neighborhoods that people would then say, oh yeah, well, that's my ward.
Yes, so Ward 4 is comprised of Mason Square, McKnight, some of Upper Hill, Old Hill, and Bay Area.
Okay.
Oh, yes, that was it.
Okay, so in terms of the ward, what do you identify as problems or challenges that need to be addressed by a city councilor?
There are a few things that need to be addressed in Ward 4. We need an increase in home ownership. Ward 4 has their fair share of some blighted property. Ward 4 also has their fair share of renters, and I would love to see some of those renters be converted into homeowners so that we can address the blighted properties, get them in there, and teach folks that it actually costs you less to own a home than it does to rent, and you build equity. We have many parks in Ward 4. Some of our parks need a little more attention. I would love to see them beautified just a bit more. The sidewalks, I've noticed as I've been out door knocking since the springtime, are in need of certainly some repair. And most importantly, when we talk about high quality economic development, many residents of Ward 4 want a grocery store in their neighborhood. And that is something that I want to work diligently to fight for and bring to our neighborhood.
One of the issues that the current city council has been grappling with, and it may not be over, is the concept of the creation of a civilian police commission, as opposed to having the civilian review board, which is now in place. Do you have an opinion about that? If this was an issue that came up before if you were elected, what would your stance be on that?
Certainly. So I've actually been documented back to 2017 as saying that I'm in favor of a police commission, and that I think that it's important to have qualified residents that are involved in the process of governing their local neighborhood and their local police department as much as possible.
We've seen during this election cycle some unfortunate instances of remarks on social media that have been viewed as racist. And I'm wondering, as an African-American woman, how comfortable you feel the the overall climate in Springfield. This is a community that now is considered overwhelmingly majority, as they say, which is sort of an oxymoron. But nonetheless, between African Americans and Latinx, we've got a different situation than we had probably 30, 40, 50 years ago. What do you think about Springfield in terms of its status, its climate for people of color?
Well, I think that certainly some of the remarks that we've heard come from certain candidates is definitely quite devastating, especially as an African American woman, especially as someone who is raising African American children in this city. I've always been very adamant about the fact that I like to think that Springfield is somewhat moving towards a more progressive city. But every now and again, we get a disgusting reminder that we still have quite a bit of work to do. And so what I would say is I would encourage as many progressive and positive-minded folks that are open to diversity and understand that all residents have a lot of things to offer to our community, and encourage them to participate in the civic process.
So I need to touch briefly here on economic development. We've seen the rail car company, we've seen the rehabilitation of Union Station, and we've seen the establishment of MGM. As a potential city councilor, what would you like to see in terms of a direction for future economic development issues? I
want to see some of the economic development come up on the Hill outside of just affordable housing. I think whenever we see recent economic development happen in Ward 4 up on the Hill, it's usually regarding or surrounding affordable housing. And I'm all for affordable housing. I think that's really important. It's important that we not just give folks a handout, but a hand up. But folks want to see some other things happening. Folks want to see entertainment or small pockets of entertainment districts up on the Hill. People do not want to feel obligated to have to go downtown in order to enjoy themselves. We have a couple empty storefronts and even an empty lot on Bay Street that it would be awesome if that could be developed for restaurants or some other entertainment, maybe some drop-in centers for young people outside of the youth and teen centers that we already have.
I know a criticism has been made by people throughout the city that so much economic development energy has been spent simply on downtown, and that it's time to move that kind of energy into other parts of the city, Ward 4, up in Indian Orchard, my ward, Ward 3, et cetera, et cetera. So you would support that? Absolutely.
I think what we need to do is, I actually spoke with a developer at one of the candidate forums that was hosted at Mason Square Library. And what he told me was that there are more incentives for developers to go downtown and develop downtown. And so we need to figure out a way to provide those same incentives up on the Hill so that developers want to come. It's not that it's not possible, it's just that there are not being as many financial incentives offered. And so I would like to see those incentives offered up on the Hill just like they are downtown.
So let me just close out by asking, are you prepared to be more or less a full-time city councilor, someone who's going to be very much in their ward, walking the ward, looking at what's happening, talking to constituents?
I feel like I do a lot of that now, Mike. As I'm going door to door, I'm finding out what the concerns are of the residents and I'm acting on it. I've gone to doors with sidewalk repair applications. I've heard residents' concerns about the speeding on St. James Corridor. So I contacted the City Council President, Justin Hurst. We actually were able to get the speed trap put out there so that folks know not just how fast they're going, but so that it's collecting data. A resident actually who lives on Vassar Street in my district emailed me last week thanking me and congratulating me because now the issue of having some crosswalks placed on the St. James Corridor has made its way to the Maintenance and Development Committee. So I'm already doing a lot of the work. I would love to be elected so that I can be empowered and represent you all more and have more power to do the things that I've already been doing. Other than my candidate, I have the most experience working with the City Council. I was a part of an ad hoc committee back in 2017 and even 2018 for community police relations. And so I already have such great experience working with local government, even in a position that I'm in now, working for a local. I'm in a room right now where we are doing the research and putting together language for a policy and for bills so that we can make childcare more affordable and so that we can offer childcare providers more pay. And so I would say that I'm already doing the work. I'm prepared to do more work, and I'm definitely the most qualified candidate.
Thanks so much for coming in tonight. We really appreciate it. And folks, please stay tuned for some debates coming up in just a few minutes.